Another reason millennials are choosing not to have a kid is because they don't want to be parents. That's pretty straightforward and one of the most common reasons that millennials are not having kids. I'm Hannah, the wife without kids. This channel is all about building a positive community to support you in your child-free life. Millennials seem to get a lot of flack for a lot of things. The list is basically endless. Obviously, not all millennials are choosing not to have kids, so if you're a millennial and you're having kids, this video doesn't apply to you. As of 2018, birth rates in the United States were the lowest they have been since the 1950s. Over 4,000 millennials were surveyed, and these are the most common answers that they gave. The number one reason why most millennials do not want to have kids is because it is too freaking expensive.
That's a lot of money.
The study also found that millennials actually had more debt. The majority of this debt was student loans. 3/4 of millennials pursue higher education, while only half of their parents went to college or university. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that the cost of college and university has skyrocketed over the last 20 years. Now, because I live in Canada, I'm just gonna give a couple of Canadian stats for this portion of the video. The average Canadian millennial is $17,000 in debt with student loans. The average salary for a Canadian millennial is $45,000. That's after taxes. Now, this is assuming that they've been in the workforce for several years. I believe the average age they were giving was basically a 34-year-old millennial. Here's where it starts getting a little bit crazy, and we're sticking with the Canadian stats for now just because it's easier for me to do that. Canada's smaller and I'm more familiar with Canadian stats as far as housing prices go. The average house in Canada currently costs $531,000. No! That's a lot of money, $530,000. Now, if you live in a big city in Canada, this cost is going to skyrocket. If you want to live, let's say, in Toronto, the average house price is going to be over $800,000. And if you decide, let's go West Coast, and you want to live in a city like Vancouver,
you will pay over $1 million for a home.
$1 million. That is insane to me. That is so expensive. And in case you're thinking that the houses must be really nice for $1 million, I've looked at pictures. They're just like regular, everyday, ordinary. This is basically what you get for $1 million in downtown Vancouver. Now, obviously, you don't have to pay $530,000. You can live in an apartment or you can live in a condo, but it's still going to be expensive. And so I think when you look at the big financial picture, it's a little bit overwhelming and it can deter people from wanting to have kids. Like most people, millennials want to feel that they are financially secure before they start bringing children into the world. And they want to have a place to put that baby. An apartment, a condo, a house. They don't particularly want to be raising their children in their parents' basements. Obviously, there are places in the world that are going to be cheaper than this, but housing prices in Canada have been insane, especially over the last few years. Another reason millennials are choosing not to have a kid is because they don't have a desire to become a parent.
No.
I think that's a great reason not to have a kid, and it really doesn't need any further discussion because that's a good enough reason to not want to be a parent. One of the worst reasons you can have kids is to have them because you're supposed to, but you don't really want them. They are concerned about the political and economic climate, and they really just don't like the way that the world is right now. Especially the way things have been going over the last year, they don't really feel compelled to bring children into this type of world. If you bring up American politics in Canada, there is always some type of lively discussion and everyone seems to have a lot of opinions about what's going on, what should be going on, and what's going very wrong. Millennials were even specifically asked about the pandemic and if that affected their choice to have kids. 15% of them said they were actually less interested, and 17% of them said, you know, we probably still will have kids, but we're gonna just put it off for a while. Oh, I feel like my voice did something weird there. Kind of went lowish. It's the morning, I guess I just have like my low morning voice going on. And right along with people being concerned about politics and economics, they are also concerned about the climate. There is a lot of talk about climate change and how that is affecting our life and how that is going to affect life in the future.
How dare you!
Some millennials want to reduce their carbon footprint, and they feel the best way they can do this is to not have a child. Take a quick look at this chart. We hear a lot about pollution. Things like eating meat and driving a car and taking a trip in an airplane are said to be a major cause of pollution. According to Lund University, having a child creates 58.6 tons of CO2 equivalent emissions per year. That's one kid. That is completely mind-blowing. So this is where people get really passionate about helping the earth. Yes, the recycling and the smaller things on the list, they do make a difference, but choosing not to have a child makes a much bigger difference. And this is probably something that we really never hear anybody talk about. Another reason millennials are choosing not to have a kid is because they just haven't found a partner to have a child with.
I'm on 10 different dating websites to increase my odds.
51% of millennials say that they are currently not in a long-term romantic relationship with anybody, and they might want to have a kid, but they definitely don't want to have a kid on their own. So for now, they're choosing to not have children. Now, obviously, there are people who choose to have children on their own without a partner, but this specific part of the study referred to people who wanted to have a partner and didn't want to have children on their own. Now, this is a little tidbit that I actually found really interesting. Out of that 51% of individuals who do not have long-term romantic partners, 41% of them are Democrats and 29% are Republicans. If you guys want to have a discussion about that down below, feel free to do that. Let me know why you think the percentages break down like that. Now, this leads us straight into the millennials that actually do have partners. Now, some of these millennials say, you know what, we actually do want kids, but either myself or my partner have some fertility challenges, and that is preventing us from having our own biological children. One of the huge reasons that millennials did not want to have kids is because they felt like they would mess up their children. They just wouldn't be good parents. They didn't feel specifically equipped to take care of a kid when they were still dependent on their parents, when they weren't financially independent, and when they didn't have a place to actually house their own children. Some of them also specifically mentioned that they had battled mental health challenges for a great majority of their life, and they just didn't feel that they had the life skills, and that made them feel very ill-equipped to be able to bring children into the world and give them the nurturing that they deserve. I feel like this generation is not afraid to talk about their mental health challenges and the things that they struggle with, because for so many decades, I feel like people just didn't talk about mental health issues. And by not talking about it, it didn't mean it didn't exist, it just meant that it wasn't getting dealt with. People weren't admitting that they had challenges, that they had struggles, and that they had things that they needed to work through. It takes a lot of courage to admit that we have struggles, and let's be honest, we all have struggles. I think it's important to admit that if we have internal struggles and we haven't worked through those yet, we probably wouldn't be equipped to raise a child. The next reason that some millennials just don't want to have children is because they want to focus on the relationships that they already have in life, whether those are romantic relationships or whether those are relationships with other people. For the most part, this specifically focused on romantic partnerships that people already had. Let's be honest, long-term romantic relationships take a lot of work. Yes, there's the initial honeymoon stage where people fall in love, and that part's kind of easy. Some millennials just felt that they would be giving something up with their partner and to nurture that relationship. It probably goes without saying that when you have kids, it's going to change the nature of your relationship. Next up, they want to focus on their careers. Now, not every single millennial wants to go to university. They don't want to go to graduate school. They don't want to climb the corporate ladder. And this is a comment that I get a lot. People say, I don't have kids and I don't care about my career that much. And it's true, there are a lot of people that don't, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there are some that have that desire. They have put a lot of time and effort and money into their career, and that's what they want to pursue. That is what they are absolutely passionate about. And when you have children, it sort of defers those plans or it sidetracks those plans, and some people are just like, nope, I'm going for the career. There are so many reasons why people don't want to have children. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next week, and remember, you are never alone.